Welcome back to another episode of the Boys in Motion podcast, your go-to spot for endurance sports, laughs, and maybe a little inspiration. I'm Brian, and today we're switching things up a little bit. We don't have Tyler here today, and normally you'd hear Andrew alongside me and Tyler as our co-host, but today he's sitting in the hot seat. We're diving into his story. This is like an origin story of his running journey, the pursuit of the 7 world major marathons, and who he is beyond the splits. Let's dive in.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit weird to be on the other side of the mic. Well, I'm always in front of the mic, but the one being interviewed this week. But I'm excited to share a little bit more about what drives me.
This episode matters because let's be real, most people see athletes as numbers. If you've gone through Strava, you see Andrew's PRs, race results, and all those speedy Strava uploads. But Andrew's chasing something massive. With Berlin up next, I want to really understand the human side of that journey. I've seen it firsthand. I've run alongside you, but I think our community deserves to hear it too. So let's jump in. So right off the top, you're training for Berlin. How are you feeling and how is it going?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this week is definitely feeling better than it has in the past because it's starting to cool down here in Southern Ontario. So the long run this past weekend has been feeling good. The legs are heavy, but that's expected at this point in the block. I'm kind of right in that peak of my block. So the legs are feeling good. I've done a couple good sessions for some confidence. I have a half marathon time trial that we've kind of chatted about that's coming up. So I'm really looking forward to that because that for me is my big key session to say, that is kind of when I start actually deciding what times and splits I want to be targeting and start thinking about a race plan. So that's really kind of what's on my mind is preparing for that so that I can start wrapping my head around what I'm going to do on race day.
Awesome. And is that planned to be the September 6th time trial? Is that your half?
Yeah, that'll be my half time trial. I'm thinking of potentially doing a 10K time trial actually this week. It is a peak week, so it probably won't be super, super speedy, but I'm trying to sneak that in depending on what's going on. So I'm going to do a 10 and then the September 6th in Niagara with all the BIM folks.
Well, I'm excited to see it, and I'm excited not to hold on as I try to pace down a PB myself, but I'm excited to see if we can both, really push the pace and come out of that with some confidence. I know you love the tune-up race, but you've also been pumping out some big long runs. Have you seen a difference in this block versus previous blocks in terms of your fitness? Do you think you're at an all-time high right now?
I definitely think the fitness is really good, and I think something that looking at other blocks, and sometimes I compare, and I always, like I said, I've mentioned in the past, I name my workouts very specifically so I can kind of go back, compare, kind of see where I was at. And often I look at my winter blocks and I think that I'm not quite as fit as I was. Like I actually look at my Ottawa block a lot, and I had a lot of really, really good workouts because we had a mild winter. So I was able to smash my paces that block because the temperature was so cool, even though that actually was not a PR race. But I think all things considered, comparing to previous summers, the fitness is, I think, higher and at a better level, and my consistency has been better than past blocks.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I've noticed, well, I feel like I'm noticing that your zone 2 paces have been blistering fast for a lot of your longer runs relative to blocks that I had seen in the past, which is huge because a lot of that like big volume is also coming quicker for you.
Yeah, for sure. That is definitely something. I think that is one of the things I've changed the most from this block, from previous blocks. My like GA runs, I feel like those have gotten quite a bit quicker, and not because I'm like pushing really hard on those runs, but those runs just feel easier. Like I'm still in the mid to high 150s, which for summer is definitely like that zone 2 area for me, where in the past I was either doing those runs at like 165, maybe pushing 170 to get those paces, or like much slower than I'm doing them now. Where now I'm doing kind of most of my GA runs in the like 7 minute to 7 minute 30 mile pace. So it's been feeling good.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think the whole community's excited. I know there's a few people also going to watch you and cheer you on in Berlin. So can you tell people like what's the countdown look like? What's the kind of travel plan look like when you go over to Berlin?
Yeah, so that's through the majors. That's one thing that's been awesome is that I've always had friends and family that have been able to come and watch. And this time it's actually, the first international major. So traveling further for it. And I actually think it's the major that I've had the most people come for.
Wow.
So a bunch of family. I think there's about between like friends and family, there's like 10 to 12 people coming for the
Wow.
trip.
Amazing.
So Madison and I are bananas. Mischievous and I are going to Paris first. So when we were looking at flights, we had to do a layover regardless to go to Berlin. So we decided to go to Paris first so that I could carb load on all the best things, those croissants, the baguettes. So I'm going to be in heaven, in carb heaven for a few days before the marathon. And then we'll be going over to Berlin on the Friday before the race. So I'm actually starting on Tuesday to try to give myself a few days to get used to the time zone. Because I've never actually done a race where I think it's 6 hours, I believe, here to Germany. So I've never done a race with the shifting time zone. So that's definitely a new factor for me on this race that I'm trying to give myself a few days buffer to get used to it.
Oh, that's yeah, it's amazing. It's a huge endeavor to be running on a different continent and running with such a purpose that this isn't just a one-off, right? This is a part of a broader plan, and all things are coming together. And you had to qualify for this. So let's talk a little bit about the world majors. So there's 7 races, correct?
7 right now. Eventually there will be 9. There's one in China and then the South Africa marathon. So eventually there will be 9. There's the 6 original, and then eventually there will be like a 9 medal is how it is.
Okay. So when you first had this idea to chase it, was it 6 or 7 at the time?
It was 6 at the time. Yeah.
Okay. So from my understanding, you've raced all of them in North America. Which races were those?
Yeah, so the first one I ever did was in Boston, and then I did Chicago and New York. So those I did all of those in 2023.
You banged all 3 out in a single year.
Oh yeah, so Boston had to qualify, kind of that was the first one, and that was really what kind of started this journey towards the 6 majors. And then I got into Chicago as well through time. And then I heard that New York was a hard one to get into, and they have a time qualifier, but it's still a lottery, so not a guaranteed entry. So just like the other ones that I've been applying to for every single year, I was like, might as well throw my name in the hat because, I want to get them all done. And then, of course, I did get in. So then I ran back-to-back marathon, Chicago, then New York in November.
That's crazy. So Boston being the first that you checked off the list, obviously it has, like anything in Boston, a lot behind the name. A lot of people will chase that as their one and only marathon running goal is to qualify for Boston. So can you talk us through the process of going from like 0 to actually qualifying for that first world major? What was that like? When did you start? And what made you press that button to start that big plan to get that time?
Yeah, so I actually started, I've always ran and done cross country, but I did my first marathon in 2018, and that was the Waterfront Marathon. But then kind of during COVID, when, there wasn't that much to do, running was the one thing that you could do and kind of do it super easily. I had a lot of time on my hands, so it was kind of the perfect thing to jump into. And then I was wanting to do races kind of as we were going in that like the bubble of like you were allowed to do things, you're not allowed to do things. So I was signing up for local races to try to get a Boston qualifier, and they kept getting canceled. So then I ended up during COVID actually running 2 marathon time trials where I got a friend, Chris, a friend of the pod, to bike alongside me. So he had my hydration, my fuel, and just kind of, pushing me through it, kind of the
A little
encouraging
fly
words.
swatter to hit you in the calves. Keep
Exactly.
You up. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we actually did two together, and the first one was in May of 2021. And at the time, I kind of was just, it was my first ever attempt at an actual running block. The first marathon I ever did, I didn't do much running at all and kind of was just trying to ride the fitness that I had. But this one, I ran in a 3:09:11. So that was kind of my first attempt. I kind of had no idea, if I was close to sub 3 shape, and kind of at the beginning, it was pretty good. At half, I think I was very close, if not just under sub 3. But that was definitely the first time that I felt that post second half marathon and like what it felt like to be like, I'm completely dead. I don't know how to fuel properly. I don't know how to pace properly. I wouldn't say it was a complete blow up, but I definitely realized kind of what running a marathon entailed and that I needed to take it a little bit more seriously if I wanted to get speedier.
Right. And that first marathon that you did in 2018, Waterfront, what was that time? Do you recall kind of ballpark how fast you were?
It was about a 3:35 was around the time.
Okay. And your latest PR that you've run now, what does that look like?
So yeah, the latest PR now is a 2:42:11, and that was at the last fall's Waterfront.
Incredible. So almost an hour off your marathon time from kind of, we'll call it untrained, knowing that you were obviously an athlete kind of your whole life and you've been running for a very long time, but almost an hour off. How many blocks of training have you stacked together to find that process or progress? Sorry.
So like I mentioned, I did the 2 time trials during COVID, and then my first one out of COVID was the Toronto Marathon, and that's actually where I've got my BQ. But since then, I've actually just cracked the double digits and have done 11 marathons at this point, if you include those 2 time trials.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, that's a lot of dedication, that's a lot of running, that's a lot of strain, but it's also been a ton of progress. So I think the proof is in the pudding that the endurance game and to really stack those blocks to get those incremental time gains, it can happen, and it can happen to anybody. If you're fit enough to run, you're fit enough to go the distance and really start chasing some times. So that's cool. Now, with the majors, obviously you've done 3, you've got 1 coming up in a month or 2. Of those that remain, including Berlin, which of those are you most intimidated by right now?
I mean, if I include Sydney, which is the 7th, so that's definitely not my primary focus. I want to do the 6th first, but Sydney is definitely super intimidating because of the course. I think it is harder than the New York City Marathon, and I remember my quads coming into Central Park during that one. I was completely cooked. So that one is definitely scary. The other 2 are scary from a perspective of like getting in and like lottery and like figuring out the best way to get in. Those ones are a little bit, Tokyo and London are a bit more challenging in that regard.
I'm sure you might need to immigrate just to get a bump up in the bib selection.
That is the thing. And up until now, I've been able to get into all the majors. I've been lucky enough. Well, not lucky enough. I've trained hard enough. I have earned it for sure. But to get in based on time, where London, if you're not a UK resident, there's the good for age I'm not able to qualify for. And the Tokyo time to get in is very aggressive. And I'm not sure I'll be able to train to get quick enough for that one.
What do you have any inclination as to what the Tokyo time would be?
The Tokyo time, I believe, is a sub 2:25, but it's also 2:28, but then it's also not like a guaranteed. They only take a certain amount of people, so it probably ends up being more around that 223, 225 range.
Yeah, that's blistering fast. I can understand why that. But yeah, that's a shot in the dark to get it even. I cannot imagine running that fast for that distance, and even yourself, like that's a few more, maybe even a dozen more blocks of training to get you there. Right?
Yeah.
It would really like you'd need to dedicate a ton of time.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, I would need to end up dedicating way more time than I'm dedicating now. Like instead of around like 8 to 10 hours of just running, it would probably be more like 15 to 18 hours of running is kind of what I would think.
Yeah, at that point you need to retire to do it. So
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that
So
sounds pretty
beyond
nice.
it does sound nice. You could just have, make a cup of coffee, call that the day's work, and then go out for your run
Oh yeah.
or two runs. So beyond those majors, are there any dream races, bucket list destinations that you'd love to take on, whether it's running or, another type of sport or endurance event?
Right. I would like to do kind of other kind of destination races, kind of more with like friends and stuff like that. I would really like, to be honest, to go back to some of the US majors that are closer, but go back kind of with a group of people and kind of do it as more of a run with a person trying to push a friend to get a PR or something and kind of experience it with them, because the atmosphere of those races is just incredible. I kind of think I haven't dipped my toe into the ultra world, and I'm not sure if I will that much. But also some of those big ultras that you see, like the Western States, UTMBs, Leadvilles. I see some of those races, and that seems like something that would be pretty cool to pursue as well. But it's all about, there's only so much time and energy, and it's like what things do I want to tackle, and that's kind of something I'm still sitting with, because I do definitely still want to tick off a good chunk of minutes from the marathon PR. And to do that, you need to stay doing fast things and not necessarily going long, or long, like really long, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. And yeah, the marathon is nothing to scoff at, but when you start talking about, 100 milers and 100 milers plus, it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different system that you need to work on. So, okay, so obviously it sounds like you've got some aggressive time goals, and those don't come easily. And I'm sure that there's ebbs and flows with your training, your body, and that sort of thing. How have you handled kind of the mental side of the challenges that you're putting in place for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, that's motivation doesn't just come out of nowhere. Unfortunately, running doesn't always feel good, as much as a lot of social media and all influencers like to say. It doesn't always feel easy, and you don't always feel like you want to go out the door. But for me personally, kind of having these big events and like having friends, family that are coming out, especially like this one where, they're coming out, they're flying all the way to Berlin. It kind of adds a little bit of pressure, but in like healthy pressure where I'm like, not that it matters necessarily. It's not like I need a certain time. They don't care about the time, but it definitely helps me get out the door, even on those days where, you're sore. The weather's bad, especially here training through winter. That's a big one that I've kind of learned to love in a certain way, because a lot of people aren't doing the hard things through the winter. So it's just kind of playing those mental gymnastics and just, having that reason why you're doing it.
Yeah, and you mentioned something interesting, which was pressure, and obviously, like people coming to your races, people looking at your Strava when you're posting stuff, you're getting instantaneous feedback. You yourself are putting those goals in place. How do you balance that pressure of chasing those PRs, of chasing those big goals, with the act of just enjoying running?
This I would say for me is something that I am pretty good at, and I don't, when it comes to race day, I find that not taking myself too seriously and trying to have a good time, whether that's, interacting with people I'm running with, interacting with the crowd. For me, I find that, slowing down to give people a high five, whatever, that the few seconds you get that you give away there, I find it kind of comes back and kind of that energy that you get from it. And you kind of find you are able to speed up, and that kind of maybe hard place you are in kind of fades away. So I think just trying to not take it too seriously. Like, it is a hobby. We are just doing it for fun. So kind of staying grounded in that thought really helps, I find.
Yeah, it makes sense. There was a short that was posted. We're the professional amateurs, right? We put so much time into it, but at the end of the day, you do need to realize that, this isn't what's paying the bills. It's not keeping your family safe. It's not keeping a roof over your head. It's for the pleasure of the endeavor, right?
Just keeping us out of trouble. That's all.
Or putting us in trouble. But
That's also true.
I love the enjoyment on race day. I think this is something that I could learn a little bit from you and Tyler, like seeing the shorts of him in the Ironman where he's doing the run, probably like the toughest run of his life, maybe barring Maryland, but in Ottawa Ironman, he's out there waving gels, cheersing people, pointing out people in the crowd. You saw Mustafa and the guy who like runs 25th hour endurance club hugging while they're running like that. Those are the moments that I think really make sports special and shows that community really matters.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that piece is super important. And I think taking away some of that pressure is good. And it helps you, have your focus on something else other than your legs that are burning, because that's going to happen for sure.
Oh, geez, that tees me up so well to the next question that I have, which is because you're 11-time marathoner, Mr. Runnerman Andy. Because there's so many people who might be going into their first marathon this fall, what are some of those strategies that you use when you start falling apart mid-race in that like 35K plus territory where the demons are out to get you? How do you handle that?
This is when I start chunking the run. I pick an or something out in the distance, whether, if you're in a big city, a building, a street sign, a block, if it's more of a country marathon or something, maybe all you have is trees. You pick something in the distance, you say, I can get that far, and then I pick a new target. And then I just keep chunking it in that way. I know one big trick or one big thing that I often do in marathons is as soon as I get to 3 miles left, so 5K left, I just start counting them down on my fingers and like counting 1, 2, 3, or 3, 2, 1 is just like so simple. And then I just kind of like think of like, let me keep ticking these fingers down so I'll have my fingers up and I'll start ticking them down. And then it's just kind of something else to think about other than moving forward.
Damn, I'm time stamping this so that I can listen to that right before race day, because I know the pain that comes, and I think it's really like 35K plus. That territory is still pretty unknown to me. It's unknown to a lot who are listening, and I think it's a beast that if you haven't faced it, it's good to be prepared with a few games to play.
And I think another thing is like if you have people that are coming out to support you, I think if they are asking you, like, where should I go on the marathon course? Anywhere from like half, but ideally like 30K on is really where you will want that support. And having those people there and kind of giving those high fives, giving those hugs at that point can be a huge boost to kind of help you get across the line. So that's something I would definitely recommend.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so we've talked a lot about running. I want to look at a little bit beyond the splits now. So a lot of people who have listened to the pod who maybe only know you through myself or through Tyler or through, the shorts and whatever other content that they found us from might only know you as the runner man. What are some other passions, hobbies that might, surprise people if they don't know you that well?
Just kind of like in sports specifically?
No, just like paint us a picture. What's the full man look like? You got, some things on your wall there, a bike, a different sign that says another word that I know you love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, in general, I do like sports and athletics quite a bit, and I do keep myself busy with that, whether it's running or kind of some other things. But when I'm not running, Boys in Motion, I love chatting with people and kind of like getting people on this endurance bandwagon quite a bit. I know I chat quite a bit with Ian now, and kind of I love seeing people that are new into sports, endurance, or whatever, kind of get hooked on that kind of, I'm going to newbie gains and kind of the passion that sparks in people. So that's something that I really, really love. And I've been loving seeing kind of Ian get into that. Other things that oh no, this side. So this is actually another thing that I love quite a bit, and we chat about it enough, is coffee rides. I'm quite passionate about my coffee and all of the different brewing methods that there is. Love, spending weekend dialing in and geeking out over my espresso machine, and also live in Toronto in a big city that has pretty good food. So I enjoy also trying new restaurants, cooking and stuff like that, which is a great hobby to go hand in hand with endurance, because
It's true.
doing lots of activity means I can eat lots and lots of food, and sometimes so much food that it seems hard as someone that doesn't necessarily have the biggest appetite. So being surrounded by great food and food culture is really awesome.
Yeah, that's sweet. You're also a coder man, Andy. You're a software engineer. Have you used any of your programming skills to upgrade your training in any way?
I have not done too much. Like I've used some. I haven't built anything myself. I've used like AI tools and that kind of stuff to help, but nothing that I have specifically built myself. So
Not fair. Well, AI tools, I think that's a great idea for an upcoming episode, maybe. Once, our CTO Tyler is back, he can teach us a thing or two about how he uses generative AI to fuel his training. Oh, yeah. So coffee, of course, is part of the culture of endurance sports. You've got a few clubs here in Niagara. You've got the Coffee Club podcast, which isn't in Niagara, but it's ran by a few track athletes. And then you also have Coffee Cruisers and the Coffee Trotters out of Niagara. Coffee Cruisers you might recognize because we had Chloe on the pod not too long ago. So coffee's ingrained in the endurance game. I want to give you a few scenarios, and I'd like you to tell me what you might make in terms of the perfect cup for the perfect moment. So pre-long run, Sunday morning, nice and early. You're in a little bit of a rush. What would you be making?
espresso shot. That's quick, hits me real quick, gets me out the door. I don't have too much time because I probably slept in a little bit too long, so I just need something quick and that will get the job done.
That's awesome. Is that a single or a double?
Oh, always a double. Singles don't exist in my house.
Oh, geez, that's too nice. Okay, you're out on the BIM ride. You stop at a little coffee shop. What are you ordering?
I think this, if I'm on the, well, what pace, which group am I in on the
Oh,
BIM
you're
ride?
cruising.
Oh,
No
okay.
pain train for you.
If we're in the chat pack, we're there to chat. I think that's when I would get a nice flat white, something to sip on, just a nice little treat. Still pretty strong coffee flavor, but just, something to enjoy your day with.
Yeah, the flat white, I was sleeping on it. And then I saw a video of somebody interviewing a bunch of the guys in the Tour de France, and they were all saying like what's their perfect coffee for their like during ride activities, and like 70% of them said flat white. Went out and tried it. I'm hooked on the rides. The flat white is really nice.
Oh yeah, really,
Yeah.
really, really nice.
So a morning of portaging or hiking when you're out on the trails, what's
Oh,
the go-to?
oh, we're switching off espresso now, and this is one of the only times I switch off espresso, and that is a nice cup of AeroPress coffee with some nice beans, hand ground, because that's an essential piece of camping gear that always hits.
That's awesome. Sweet. And coffee place that you'd run to get to a coffee shop that you'd run to close to your place.
One of my favorite ones that I like running to is called Ithaca. It's on Sterling on the west end of Toronto. It's a great roaster, a great coffee shop, and they do live music on Sunday, which is nice if you're there for a Sunday run and you pop in with some nice music. You get a quick espresso shot and then you keep moving.
That's awesome. So Ithaca, check it out if you're in the city. Perfect. So I want to talk a little bit about the inspiration, what keeps you motivated, and I want to start with who inspires you most in the world of running.
Who inspires me most in the world of running? That is a very, very good question. I honestly think I don't necessarily. Well, I mean, the one and only Eliud Kipchoge. I feel like is the one true North Star.
That is true.
I remember seeing him and kind of you know the sub 2 project and him kind of chase that down, kind of fail at the first time, and then hit hit his big goal. I think one, the incredible athletic feats, but I think also his personality and just kind of his like very he's not like a show. I think in track you see a lot of people that are like these very like showboaty kind of want to be
Totally.
this like a
A lot
Noah
of ego.
Lyle.
Yeah.
Noah Lyles, for example, great athlete, but for me that just doesn't quite resonate because that's not the type of person I am. But just like his attitude towards sport is just like so refreshing and just like calming when like man is out there running faster than I can run 50 meters and then he's just like, "Oh, I love sport. It's so wonderful. Like I love running. It's so relaxing." It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
He does have a feather of stoicism to him, right?
Yes.
He's very kind of balanced with running. The mental side is he's just like water. He lets it run off him.
Another person that a YouTube channel called Floberg runs is Eric Floberg. He's a pretty big running YouTuber. I remember I started watching him, and he was kind of, I would say like, I mean, he's maybe 5 years older than us, but I'd say he was like 1 or 2 blocks kind of ahead of me in terms of fitness. And it was kind of nice to see kind of his progression, what he'd done to get there, and kind of like thinking of like where I want to be. So that's definitely one like running YouTuber that I watch very kind of religiously, and I love keeping up with his training series, and also his videography and cinematography are crazy good. So it's a good watch.
Oh, that's great. I want to mention one more because I see a lot of parallels between you and this person, which is Casey Neistat and somebody who runs very often. Is that somebody who influenced you early days in like starting to run and take it more
Oh,
seriously?
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And again, his again attitude towards running, I mean, again, he's pursued crazy goals. He's done sub 3 and also was on the grind to chase that sub 3 for a while, which I was kind of on that as well. But his just like, I like to run, I like to get out there, and sometimes like even if I don't have a goal, like I just like love doing this thing. It kind of fuels me to do the other things in my life. Is definitely something that resonates with me is like days that I don't run, unless I'm like mid marathon block and completely beat up. Days I don't run, I feel like something is missing in my day. So I feel like Casey definitely has that where he's got that full bug and he's got the runner in him.
Yeah, totally. And you're right about the endeavors he's like knocked down. He released a really good video about his sub 3 project and the whole, years and years of training that went into that. And he's done some crazy stuff like his mountaineering feats are also awesome videos to watch. Definitely influenced me as well. What about outside of the sports world? Is there anybody, anything that really inspires you to push your limits and be your best?
I don't necessarily know. I think one big thing, not necessarily for pushing limits, but I think kind of we've done sports together, and I think a lot of the coaches that we had growing up, like I'm thinking like Campbell, like even Aaron Pye, like a lot of our like rowing coaches specifically, or I had soccer coaches. His name was Vito, Coach Vito. I think kind of the passion of sport that growing up being in athletics, and that it really motivated to me. One, push myself hard, and they were always trying to get a lot out of me. So kind of I always have that in my mind, these people as I was growing up, and didn't really matter what sport I was doing because I did a lot of sports growing up, kind of pushing me to do my best to kind of get the most out of myself, but then also to be like encouraging others to jump in and kind of fostering that community where regardless of if I'm running at this speed or if they're doing something at this speed, to kind of try to get as many people involved in that thing and feel like they're included. I think is a lot of the people growing up that really motivated me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something that certainly influences me to this point, to this day, is those coaches that I had in kind of those foundational years around sport. And the connection with people, and especially now, like as adults who aren't, a part of a pro team or don't have that coaching infrastructure around us anymore, a lot of that comes through the people who are actually training with us and that we see more as peers, right? It's like more peer coaching network that we're supported by now. That makes a lot of sense. I also think teachers like Bernadette coming on the pod and hearing about her, like obviously as when we were younger, those kind of quotes that she was spitting at us, those are things that really do leave a lasting impact.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think those, coaches, teachers, and it's not, of course, like I said, like Elliot, like professional athletes and looking up to that, but my desires and aspirations were never like, I want to become a professional athlete. So I think it is more in those everyday interactions that you kind of get these little nuggets from all these little people that have had a super long lasting impression on kind of the things I want to do, the things I push through. And I if I actually racked my brain, I could probably think of 50 people probably very easily.
For sure. Now I want to talk about those little nuggets. Do you have any like pieces of advice or words of wisdom that you've received, or even just like found in your journey that have shaped you?
So one little funny one, and it's funny because I'm known as the one trick pony, but when I was just a little wee one, I'm left-handed and left-footed, and I had a soccer coach when I was just a timbit, and he would always. I'd be playing, I would only use my left foot. I pretended like my right foot was broken, and he always be, Andrew, use your right foot. Is your right foot broken? And that is something that I think I need to start, listening to a little bit more, in the sense of being a little bit more well-rounded, taking cross training, other things like that seriously, because it's a disadvantage. In a certain sense, it's an advantage to be able to narrow into something, but I do think kind of taking a step back and trying to be more well-rounded is something that I should try to think about, especially for injury is a big thing with running.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, injury for running and doing a little bit of cross training, it certainly helps, but I will say it doesn't fix it all. I'm struggling with my calf injury, and I've been putting in more cross training than I ever have in my life. So it definitely helps, but it doesn't stop all. But if you want to talk about cross training, the mental health gains that you get from cycling, that's unmatched. Cycling with the boys. So we'll hopefully see some more of that. Who knows?
See, I think cycling is good, but I think if I were to want to do more, I think it's more like completely different movements. Like, getting back into stuff like bouldering that I love so much. And I think it's a great complementary activity, working on different planes, working on core strength, stuff like that. I think that is kind of a bit more what I want to do, especially maybe in the winter, when running outside is a little less ideal.
Yeah, bouldering is one of those that is super complementary to any endurance sport, because your arms, become noodles if you're not using them, and the core function, and also just like the problem solving that comes with bouldering is like a super different engagement than it is to like go out and do a long run, for example. And one thing I like about it is, running, cycling, you can do with people at different level, but it does become like one person is pushing themselves crazy hard, or one person is, not working very hard. Where I like bouldering in the sense that, it's social, but you can also be there at a wall working on your own level, but it doesn't feel like you're like doing separate things or holding each other back, which I think is a big pro of bouldering. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. So you've got this wealth of experience. You've also tested and tried a ton of products. So I want to go through a few of your favorites. So I'm just going to kind of speed through a few things, and you can shout out whether it's a brand, an idea, a race, whatever it might be. Just name some of your favorite things that come to mind. So we're going to start off with clothing in general. We'll have a shoe question, but clothing in general, are there any like key items that you think should be in everybody's wardrobe?
I love half tights. I'm a full half tight, fully converted to the half tights. I love them. They're great for carrying things. Nike half tights specifically have so many pockets you won't know what to do with them. So that's definitely my favorite on the bottom half. I love CLA caps. I'm someone that a lot of caps don't fit my head properly, and I find the Go cap is perfect and just fits my head perfect. It helps wick the sweat in those hot summer months, so I love that. On the top, I have a lot of Nike singlets, but on the top I'm a little less picky. Often in the summer you're not wearing a shirt anyway, so the top doesn't matter as much. But I would say those are kind of my top picks for clothing.
Yeah, I am super envious of those trail tights that you have and the amount of storage that you can get in them. I have a pair of New Balance tights. They're nice, they feel fast, but they can't pack the gels in like you're able to carry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about shoes. It's the thing that every runner loves to chat about. What are you running in right now? What's the most recent purchase you had?
The most recent purchase, I've actually been on a bit of I haven't bought shoes in a while, because actually the last shoes I bought were actually 6 Cumulus, and that was because I forgot my shoes when I went to Massachusetts. So they were a discount bin purchase, and actually I really love them. I think they're a really good, just like GA shoe, especially with how cheap they were. But if I were to pick 2 shoes to have in my arsenal and that's it would definitely be the Hoka Cliftons and the Saucony Convaras. Those 2 shoes I love. Cliftons, go the distance, super comfortable. Convaras, no frills, but I feel fast in them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect loadout. Favorite running distance?
Favorite running distance? Well, I have to say the marathon because that's what I keep doing as the main thing. But I really think if I were to emphasize on fun, like actually like what I feel the best doing, I think it's half marathon. I think if I had to pick one distance, it would be, yeah, I think half marathon is the funnest distance.
Very nice. What is your post-race guilty pleasure?
Post-race guilty pleasure, I think it depends. If it's, well, actually late this summer, it has been Slurpees. So I'm going to answer with that. That's actually a mental kind of trick I've been doing. One long run where the heat, I had been doing a 3-day kind of heat training weekend, and it was my long run the 3rd day, and I was just cooked. Someone commented that I did a regression run that day, and that hit. But the last like 4 miles, I was telling myself, if I stop now, I don't get a Slurpee at the end of this run. So I finished the run, got the Slurpee, and it hit really good.
Oh, that's great. I was going to ask what your favorite motivational quote is, but I'm going to forgo that because it's really just if I don't stop, I get a Slurpee.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's nice. Favorite city that you've run in outside of Ontario?
Favorite city to run in? A lot. I would say Boston is a really good running city. The river trail is really, really good.
Yeah,
so
on the Charles is elite.
Yeah, I think Boston, New York, also on the west side of Manhattan, that trail, and even the trail that goes all the way to Manhattan, both really good. I really enjoy running in cities. I think having like, even when I go to non-cities and I run, I find running feels longer. I'm someone that likes the energy of the city and like kind of you can people watch and stuff. I find miles tick away like nothing when you're running in a city. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, and then the best way to celebrate after a big race?
Oh, best way to celebrate is definitely a pint, and ideally a nice slice of pizza if you're in a city that is known for good pizza. So yeah, that would be my ideal way.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I think Oktoberfest is going to be calling your name post Berlin, and I think that's a really great spot to end the episode. So, thank you very much for being willing to flip the script and letting us dig into your story today. I hope that everybody listening got to see a different side of you beyond all those wicked fast race times.
Yeah, it was definitely fun to, yeah, like you said, flip the switch and kind of be on the receiving end of the questions for once, and not, drilling our guests with questions about themselves. And I hope that if you were listening, you got something out of this, whether it was motivation, perspective, or just kind of knowing why we grind so hard to get after it. And I would love to hear kind of, if there's someone listening that has a similar story, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, our inbox on Instagram is always open. If you want to hop on the pod, please do so. And we ask that you share this episode with a friend who might need some inspiration. It's the best way for us to get the word out, to grow the Boys in Motion community and podcast. And if you're in Berlin this year, watch out for Andrew. He might just be cruising past you.
And just that quick reminder that we're not medical pros, and that everything we share here is just based on our own experiences, and always talk to a coach or healthcare professional for any personal advice.
Sweet. Thanks for tuning in to the Boys in Motion pod.